Crazy creepy visuals, unnerving audio, and fascinating entities is just up my alley, and all of this can be found on the Dr. Nowhere channel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm genuinely surprised because I feel like many people recommend this channel to others who are looking to have a spooky good time and are looking for something odd, unsettling, and fascinating to watch. Now, to be more specific of what to expect from this channel's collection of videos, they all center around strange, anomalous entities. It can either be educational or watching someone's first-hand account. It's not a linear single story, but a collection of information and tales which hooks in the viewers. Personally, the visuals is what drew me in, but learning more about the oddities is what kept me wanting to watch more. So if you're interested to learn more, then sit back, relax, maybe get a snack, and as always, my name is Ripa Estrella. Let's explore. Concept TOE123. Beginning with Concept 1, we see a frightening tall figure with dark eyes and messy hair who is banging on the screen, which is actually cracking as if it will jump out at the viewer. Speaking of which, in the video Concept 2, the creature actually did break through the screen and jump out. The reason for this is because they wanted to target a person who's actually filming the video we're watching, and prior to breaking free, the creature briefly had a conversation with the person filming. The person asked, "What do you want?" and the creature responded with mumbles and grunting. It didn't exactly say any coherent sentences, but I did hear hello being repeated a few times. Also, there's something noteworthy about this video, which is the fact that the creature doesn't have a proper hand like in the Concept 1 video, instead a long limb that's sharpened and thin at the end. Regardless, it was still effective enough to use to break free and to even push a door open to find the cameraman who ran and hid. And towards the end of the video, we hear a fast heartbeat and see the creature and the cameraman stare at each other for a few seconds until the creature lunges at the guy, and then we cut away to an image of a broken glass and text below it reading, "The body appeared untouched." We also hear an audience laughter, and this is where the video concludes. Now moving on to Concept Video 3, in the video we see a TV turn on and the volume get boosted. As for what's on the screen, it's a variety of backgrounds with text that appears on top of it. The text reads as so: "Time to rise and shine. Good children are up bright and early. Good children play pretend. Good children do not play with their food until it is all gone. Good children make friends." In addition to those visuals, briefly flashing on the screen, we see the familiar creature surrounded by darkness and also see a wall with a heart that's beating. But switching away from that, we soon get taken to a chat room called Pen Palace. The noteworthy people are Dominic9999, Ellie Wings, and Bowser Carter 4. We then go on to see a conversation between Dominic and Carter and learn that it's been a while since they last talked to each other. Dominic was concerned for a bit, assuming that his friend died or something, to which Carter responded with a very short message, almost dismissively. Dominic tells Carter that they're more than happy to talk to them and gives support, to which Carter wants to do a video call. Dominic was a bit hesitant about this and offered to call another day, but this resulted in Carter responding with desperate pleads, until eventually Dominic relented. Also, Carter said something very strange. "Starving. Help, please." I don't think this is Carter. Regardless, Dominic soon got a video chat request, which was accepted, and on the screen we see a familiar wallpaper and a tall dark creature twitching in the corner, facing away from the screen, their arms flinged around for a bit until we switch to a view of a wall with a heart and text that reads, "None of it makes any sense. Everything inside was gone." This is where the video concludes, and these were the 3 concept videos. Pretty unusual and creepy stuff, right? You must be curious about what and who this creature is. Well, apparently they're known as the Thumper, or Locust, and when it attacks, it does so by breaking through a screen and presumably eating whoever they're targeting. And remember the text that tries to explain how a kid should act? Since we see the Thumper appearing on screen, there's an obvious connection, and many people's first assumption is believing that the Thumper is a child. If the Thumper is in fact a child, then it could explain their strange way of communicating since they write with a lot of bad punctuation. However, if they're not a child, then maybe they act this way to lure people into a false sense of security. By being childish and friendly, it makes it easier to pounce on their prey. But here's the big question, is this creature evil? Well, it's definitely not good, since it's believed that the creature takes organs from their prey and leaves the rest of the body untouched. However, the first concept video had the word trapped in the description, and in the video with the chat logs, the creature said starving, and clearly it was very desperate. It makes me almost pity it? Yes, the Thumper can break out of the screen, but I guess it's not free, and they have to work hard in order to have their prey, let them have access to their device with the screen in it so they can jump out, and that's what they did with Dominic, and which is why they were so desperate in the chat logs. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, it's frightening and pretty pitiful if you think about it. With that being said, let's now move on to the next video. The Boiled One Phenomenon. The video opens with a warning, so acknowledge it, and then we see instructions of items that are needed. Earplugs, a pencil, a sheet of paper, and a standard Christian Bible open to a quote saying, "No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling." We then get told that if something unusual begins speaking in tongues, the earplugs must be put on and to have a pencil and paper ready. Once ready, you must write, "I can see this paper. I can see my hand. I can't hear the screaming of thousands. I can't hear the feast. I'm a moving, breathing human being on planet Earth." After this, you have to recite the quote that I said before out loud, and if memories and imagery of something unholy is presented in your mind, then all you can do is pray. Additionally, if you find yourself in this situation, you must contact authorities immediately afterwards, so you can be administered amnestics. With this, apparently many can have a normal life again? Moving on from this information, we go on to see the video's title card and later the date August 13th, 2003, and text reading Tree of Heaven. After this, we transition to an image of plants and text explaining that in the late 1990s, there was a now classified documentary television program in Pennsylvania centered around woodland plants and animals, which the program was primarily aimed towards children. The program had a host who narrates the wonders of nature along with the dangers and ways to protect yourself. Sadly, once the host passed, the program was taken off the air in 2001. However, in August 13th, 2003, the 13th episode of the series began to rerun out of nowhere, which was obviously strange. Speaking of the episode, we're going to be shown the audio recording in the beginning segment of that episode. It was a pretty simple one that I don't have to go into too much detail about, but the host was looking for poison oak and explaining what it is. Now back to the explanation of the events, we get told that an anomalous broadcast hijacked the program and depicted a red melted face that spoke to the viewers. This face will be referred to as PHEN 228. Many viewers remember it speaking English, however non-English speaking viewers claim to understand every word that was spoken, which I find fascinating. Speaking of which, we'll soon get shown the restored recording of the broadcast, however with alterations, mainly on the audio, and the reason for this is safety. It's also recommended to watch this with blue light glasses and to insert earplugs. Let me tell you what the reversed audio said. "The very memory of my face will cause a manifestation of my being in the future. You will be asleep in bed. I will be there and watching over you. When you awake, you will not be able to move any part of you. When the doctor eventually finds you, they will not see me, but you will, and I see you too. Forever, I'll see you." Cool, I love paralysis demons. Anyways, the broadcast was referred to as Broadcast 813, and at the time it was viewed by roughly 530 residents of southern Pennsylvania. The viewers were obviously experiencing discomfort and paranoia as a result of viewing it, including being unable to forget the image of PHEN 228 and hearing its voice every day after viewing the program. Additionally, a person claims that the face was moving in his brain and feeding on his spine, while another person claims trumpets played in their ears before they fall asleep. However, this was only the beginning of their suffering. On August 14th, 2003, specifically the Great Northeast Blackout, it was ordered to have all the power grids located in the state of Pennsylvania to be off by 4 p.m. to prevent further escalations and to avoid having the public get any knowledge of the broadcast. This outage also spread to other locations which affected 50 million people, and during the blackout, all traces of the broadcast was collected and wiped from existence, seemingly. As for the excuse used for the blackout, they claimed it was human error and trees falling onto the system. Yeah. Additionally, a lot of work was put into fixing this mess, however the damages were already done, and 20 days after the broadcast, there was a mass influx of pseudocoma, which affected 509 people. We also get an explanation of the condition, which is one that leaves a person conscious but unable to move or communicate verbally due to complete paralysis, except for their eye movements and blinking. As a result of this, the government started to investigate and discovered one thing in common with all the cases, which was that the patients had been home watching TV the night Broadcast 813 aired. Now, the only way for these patients to communicate is through Morse code by blinking. Many were interviewed with this method, but the results weren't that great. That is until an odd case was discovered revolving an elderly victim by the alias Zamperini. Zamperini was a war vet and fluent in Morse code, making him a contender to be interviewed, and we learned that his house was suspected of being haunted because of an odd photo that was taken which showed PHEN 228 standing next to a small dollhouse. We actually see that photo and get told that Zamperini believes something terrible and unholy was with him, and would hurt him or others if he described it or if he told anyone what he was being told. After this, we then listen to a recovered recording of Officer T. Gomez interviewing Zamperini. Zamperini explains the story, what he's witnessing and hearing, along with him stating that the Lord is with him. And once the officer leaves, we see PHEN 228 slowly peeking up from the window before cutting away to this. Wonderful day, the miracle of birth, a fetal fanfare. Fear the one and only Wanadabi bird. PHEN 228 then steps forward and speaks. Listen closely. Do you hear it? You will hear the laughter of thousands as the sky opens up. You'll hear the trumpets play their happy sounds. The scalding blood of life will pour down onto us all. Together, we will be still. Together, a feast fit for a king. Together, welded by love and purest connection. Be still. After this, an alert appears warning us that we cannot proceed forward due to the risks, and we were also told to follow the instructions from the beginning of the video, which, if you need a reminder, it involves plugging your ears, writing down on a piece of paper, and speaking a Bible quote out loud. There's also a code playing in the background during the end which translates to, "I still see you." Luckily, this is the conclusion of the video, however, that doesn't mean we're safe, because it's time to talk about what that anomalous creature is. We've been told that they're called PHEN 228, but they're also known as the boiled one, which I'll refer to them as because that's much more easier to say. And already, we can see a bit of a trend with seeing a creature through a device that has a visual aspect. However, there's a bit of a twist here since the boiled one has elements similar to a paralysis demon. Once you are exposed to the boiled one's face and are able to remember it and its words, it will permanently be in your mind and eventually you'll go into a paralysis and continue to see it in your surroundings along with hearing disturbing noises all around you. The only way to avoid this fate is if you follow the instructions from the beginning and call the authorities afterwards so they can do something funky with your memories, but who knows how effective that can really be. Additionally, abilities that we can assume this entity has are the following: manipulating broadcasts, controlling someone's body to make them unable to move, and infecting their brain, specifically their sight and hearing. As for what's their personal goal, let me point something else out real quick before I get to that. In the speech at the end where the boiled one mentions trumpets, it immediately reminds me of the whole trumpets in the sky, which is a sign of divine judgment and the beginning of the end of the world. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much, but this could be a sign that the world is going to face something very dangerous. And with all the religious stuff we've seen so far, maybe I'm not too far off with this assumption. Anyways, besides making anyone who witnesses them develop lock-in syndrome, the boiled one is probably trying to bring in the apocalypse, and that could be its big goal? Maybe? So, how nice. Be careful when you fall asleep tonight because you might be paid a visit by our dear friend. Let's now move on to the next video. The Boy and the Bath. The video opens with someone unable to go to sleep, so they decided to take a shower in hopes to feel better while telling themselves it wasn't their fault. And once they arrived at the bathroom, there stood a tall, white, pale, malnourished figure with long appendages and an unsettling mouth. The figure then proceeds to speak. "Why did you leave me here? I never existed to you." In response, the person we've been following from the beginning slams the door and runs back to hide in their bed. But in the cradle near their bed was the pale figure who continues to speak, and they said, "I know you heard me. It was all your fault." The protagonist then shuts their eyes tight and the video ends. This video is obviously a short and simple one, and according to the description, it's one about grief. The theory behind it is that a parent must have left their young child in the bathtub without supervision, and because of this neglect, the child drowned. Now the parent is haunted by presumably their child who has returned, but it returned in a disturbed and twisted form. Additionally, according to the text from the entity, the parent must have known what they were doing because of the line, "I know you heard me." Also, "I never existed to you." This seems very heartless, so maybe the parent wanted their child gone, but eventually they regretted this decision and were struck with grief, and they're trying to excuse their actions by saying it wasn't their fault. But it is. Now, I find this video very interesting because of the appearance of that child. They appear very monstrous, not what you expect a young child to look like. This makes me believe that in the setting of the story, there's a possibility that people's spirits can warp and twist in disturbing ways and come back as a monster that can torment humanity or just specific people. However, if that's not the case, then maybe this entity is just the manifestation of a parent's guilt, and other parents with similar experiences can see this entity too. Whatever the case is, it's fascinating nonetheless. Now let's proceed to the next video. The Oddity Compendium, Installment 1. The video opens with an interesting yet frightening looking friend who introduces us to Dr. Nowhere's Office of Wonders, and specifically will be presented with the Oddity Compendium, a beginner's anomaly education program. How fun! We're going to be learning about the strange oddities in, out, and around our universe. But be careful everyone, this information can cause a reality fracture. So let's begin! By the way, I'm just going to give very short rundowns of the oddities. Beginning with flesh beds, they're similar to parasites, and when they get too warm, they tend to consume and digest whoever lies on their mattress bodies. Secondly, the headless macrocosm, which is a sub-reality similar to our world. However, instead of humans, there's headless pale corpses, and a few humans do appear in this reality, and strangely enough, this reality is like a trash can for things in our reality to get dumped into, so that's where the mistakes go. Also, those headless corpses are very dangerous because if you just brush against one, it will remove your head, then attach your severed head to the stump on its own neck, and it will try to become the person whose head they took. Ugh. The reason for this is because they yearn to reconnect with the roots of reality, and they have a dangerous and contagious disease. What is that disease? Non-existence itself, which can actually affect people in our world, and that's what can drag you into the other reality if you are affected by it. Now moving on to Oddity 3, Obelisks of Enlightenment. They're monolithic beings who reside in remote locations across the world, usually in groups, and they barely move, and they have a vast amount of knowledge that can make humans' brains combust after hearing their words, or if they comprehend the knowledge, then those humans get absorbed and become united with the being. Additionally, these beings might be responsible for the construction of the pyramids because they shared their knowledge with the people, which I find amusing. The sad thing about this is that with infinite knowledge comes pain too, meaning these beings might feel a little bit tortured inside. Anyways, all these oddities are interesting, but there's a bonus one that we get told about at the end, which is truly something. Filbis, a bit of a mystery, but people claim that after consuming media depicting the oddity, they felt an overwhelming compulsion to practice Filbism, which is a political, religious ideology centering around the belief that building/consuming chairs and other wooden furniture is honoring Filbis' great sacrifice. What's this sacrifice? Who knows? We then get told how to practice Filbism, and a commercial interrupts the broadcast to advertisement, which seems a bit out of nowhere because it is, since mentioning Filbism triggers sponsorships in any broadcasts. Yeah. And strangely enough, all followers deny its existence when directly questioned about it, and at the end we get told that they're not sponsored and that Filbism does not exist, but an advertisement breaks through once again. Luckily that doesn't last long, and then at the end we go through an auditory procedure to ensure that we don't come out of this with any ailments. We then get told to shut our eyes and just to listen, but obviously I didn't do that, and as you can see, there's some frightening visuals and text reading. Keep them closed. Am I screwed? Anyways, that procedure lasted for a while until eventually we move on to the conclusion and we get a thank you for attending this program, and the host hopes we enjoyed our stay. We even get an I love you, which is so cute. I like this video. Now, before continuing on, I must say that learning about these oddities are very interesting, which I keep saying. Mainly the second and third one caught my attention. One is a being that lives in a reality where all the universe's mistakes go to, and they hope to connect with our reality, while the other is a being with never-ending knowledge, which results in them feeling tortured because of it. Additionally, the headless wishes to replace a human from our reality, while the enlightened monoliths wishes to absorb and unite with anything that can handle its knowledge. It's so creepy and sad if you think about it. Those headless corpses technically don't have an identity, so they want to take one, while the enlightened monoliths are burdened with never-ending knowledge and want to join up with those who can understand it, and this will help them feel a little less lonely and less tortured if they're not the only one experiencing this. Or maybe I'm too much of an empathetic weirdo and I'm giving these creatures too much credit and sympathy points. Also, where can I sign up to join the Filbis cult? Or religion? It's a cult, let's be honest. Haha, anyways, let's now move on to the conclusion of this video. Conclusion. As I mentioned in the beginning, this wasn't a linear single story, just a collection of videos with information about all sorts of anomalous entities in the universe. This series is meant to be fun and spooky for those who are looking to have a late-night fright that will make it difficult for them to sleep peacefully. You know, masochistic people. However, that doesn't mean there isn't a story being told, because there is. It's not dumb, and it's not made half-heartedly. Effort was put into these videos, and they're very creative with what abilities these entities have and how they affect the people in the world. And to be honest, I'm not sure if I should be completely scared of these beings or feel a little bit sympathetic towards them, which I find very neat. Regardless of how I should feel, it's genuinely a fascinating watch, which I highly recommend. Speaking of which, there's actually a few other videos on the channel that I haven't talked about here, and those videos have very fascinating and fun visuals, so go watch them. Links are in the description. But first, don't forget to like, subscribe, do that funny little notification thing, maybe follow my other social medias, leave a comment, and as always, my name is Ripa Estrella. I better not catch you dying on me. Goodbye!